Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Hot Takes podcast, I guess, or it could be like a live commentary thing. We're back with another episode, so for those of you who don't know, every once in a while, once every few months, I like to make a video of me just doing live commentary where I have my face cam on like the bottom right corner, and I'm essentially just talking about comments that you guys made and offering my thoughts on the subject matter, while there's just like background footage playing throughout the video. So if you want to watch my washed up gameplay, you can, but you're also welcome to just minimize the video, treat it like a podcast, and there we go. So I have another batch of comments that I got about 2 weeks ago. I asked you guys, like, what do you think? What's your biggest take on League right now at the moment? And I got quite a few responses. This time in particular, there was a recurring comment that I got, which essentially undermines the purpose of it being a hot take, seeing as multiple people have it. But it's something I want to talk about because I think it really touches on the current mindset players have towards League. And it started by this one comment from Elisa Martin 910, where they said, "I like the game." Like, that's just the comment. I like the game. And it was by far the most upvoted comment in the community post, with over like almost 300 compared to most other comments which only got about like maybe 10, 20, 30, things like that. It got me thinking because as someone who's spent the past 5-ish years or 4.5 years criticizing the state of League or its champions or going through the history of League and just offering different types of thought pieces on champions, gameplay, items, balance, what have you, it kind of presented a certain narrative that the current state of the game is not enjoyable by the majority of players. Or not even just a majority, but like a noticeable minority of players. Like enough for it to be considered like front page material discussion for the past 2 years. And even though League has been a game that people have been, no doubt, very enthusiastic about roasting and not recommending to their friends and saying like, it's like the running joke. If someone gets into League, you as a victim of this game must do everything you can in your power to stop them from joining the game. It's just, that's sort of been the reputation for League as a whole, in that like, you don't want people to play this game because of all the negative experiences and how frustrating it can be, and how, for, just keeping it simply, it's a waste of time. Not that other games aren't a waste of time, but it's just that people don't really find a clear purpose for League other than just to kill time, and those who take it far more seriously than they should are wasting more than they really need to be. There were a lot of comments in this community tab talking about how like people have a hate boner. It's some obscene way to describe the fact that people essentially enjoy hating the game, or like they just can't see the game in a positive light or take it in good faith. I think that's partially in fault to the content creators like me and other people who continue espousing the narrative that League is just a terrible game that you should not be playing. I want to go on record to say that, by and large, if we look at it objectively, League is one of the best designed game concepts humanity has ever come across. We're able to play for literal thousands, if not tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of hours on end, in a single setting, Summoner's Rift, repeatedly, without any real necessity for concurrently continuous change. Riot could theoretically not release a new champion, not balance anything, just basically just abandon the game, and there will still be people continuously trying to play the game and continuously trying to improve, because that's just the nature of League. The content of the game is the player, and so long as players are continuously trying to one-up each other and get better and outperform each other, that's all it needs to be. The sheer number of combinations and even permutations of situations, circumstances, team compositions, scenarios, fights, locations, macro play, it's just so extensive that it borders on infinite. And I think if we look at it from that point of view, League is truly a game that comes once in a generation, if not once in a century. And it represents the hallmark of what a good video game is. Something that people can play endlessly over and over again, with a reason or without a reason, and derive some kind of stimulation from it. Perhaps not fun, perhaps not enjoyment, but stimulation. That's ultimately what video games are supposed to be, a form of stimulation. So from that point of view, I wholeheartedly agree. League is a wonderful game, and it's a game that there's a reason. We joke about it all the time. We don't like the game sucks, the game makes you toxic, blah blah blah. But we do come back at the end. People write it off as an addiction, but for something to be addicting, it has to be at least somewhat appealing. right? There has to be a reason for you to want to seek it out. And if you wholeheartedly hate something, it's very difficult to be addicted to it, psychologically at least. Physiologically, we can debate that topic another time with like substances and whatnot, but psychologically, there needs to be an appeal and incentive to it. And League captures that really well. Whether you're a casual player, whether you play ranked, whether you are, if you're an ARAM only enjoyer, what have you. I think when it comes to just the basis of League as a whole and like why people want to play it, it offers a stable, consistent challenge and an experience that is different from one game to another. I know I talked about how in the past couple of months League has felt, or not past couple of months, over the past couple of years, League has felt pretty stagnant. And one of the other comments another person posted goes by the name of Elio610. The game isn't going to You've just been playing for 15 years. I've played almost non-stop the past 3 years and haven't grown tired yet. Changes like grubs, bush changes, mythic item removal were all really fun additions that really feel big to me, and the sentiment that we need to reinvent the wheel every season just isn't true. They're not wrong. League is a game that, like I mentioned, does not actually need to change for people to continue playing it. The reason why there is change is to encourage a more fresh, I guess, motivation to want to continue playing, right? And for the people who've been playing for a long time, you can think of it like this. When all of us start playing a game, regardless of League, Minecraft, Pokemon, Tekken, Smash, Call of Duty, what have you, you start off over here. And then, as you continue playing, the high naturally begins to degrade, because that's just how it is, right? The first time you watch a movie will always be at peak enjoyment. You can always watch a movie again, but you'll never get the same range of experiences and emotions and, I guess, reactions as when you did the first time. And that's League as well. When you start, you're just going to slowly go back down. The point of new content is to introduce a form of novelty, which will then bring you hopefully back up. But no matter what, as the game continues to age and progress, you'll never be able to go back to that experience of, the very first games that you played. And there was actually another comment someone made where it was by the name of Hassan Furkan Huzel Demirci? Sorry if I mispronounced that, but they said current League is much better and balanced than old League, but people are blinded by nostalgia. Again, they're not wrong. Nostalgia is a very powerful drug. Those of us who have been around since season 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, we see those times, even in spite of their problems, perhaps even more problems than we have right now. But we see them in a positive way because that was when our enjoyment was over here, the honeymoon phase, if you will. And when you continue to go down, even if we look at changes like, let's say, mythic items pushing the game's interest, or pushing our interest back up in the game, or pushing our interest for the game back up, I can't words, it will never be as high as, the first time we were there. And I'm wondering if that's the reason people continue looking at League, is like, we're still trying to fish for that original high, even though that can never happen. And ultimately, does that mean that we're blinded to the fact that League is in a very stable position? It's hard to say, because standards evolve over time as well. Maybe just back in season 2, 3, and 4, and 5, we didn't know any better. People develop more, I guess, elevated expectations for the game. And as it continues to progress and evolve, so too do our standards for it as well, right? And that can make it even more difficult for us to look at modern day seasons in the same benefit of doubt that we gave older seasons, because we're essentially stacking each season against each other. And that's not a bad thing per se, because that's the whole purpose of video games. Like, it would be a bad thing if we were to judge a game that came out in 2025 using the same grading rubric and criteria that we did in 2005, because we have 20 more years of experience added onto it. We should know better, right? The gaming industry as a whole should know what is better game design, what's more engaging, what's more rewarding, what's more challenging in a way that's constructive for the player. Therein lies a kind of dilemma where nostalgia does provide an unfair advantage for retrospective versions of the game, yet conversely, you should not be comparing, or you shouldn't be comparing the current state of the game with what it was in the old days, because not only do you have the years of time to learn and figure out what went well and what didn't, but just objectively, from an industry point of view, you should be better. The game should be in a better state than it is now. And I feel like for many people, League has plateaued for a long time. And if we were to associate like, oh, should the game have been in a much better position? I think what's frustrating a lot of people is that they believe if we were to, let's say, start right here, this is where League is expected to be, like my right hand, or I guess left hand on your screen. And then my left hand is what it actually is. People are expecting League to go in like this kind of trajectory, where in reality it's going this kind of trajectory. Now I understand there's a lot of different factors and causalities behind it that are responsible for the current condition of League, both inside the game and outside of it, right? Because public image does play a role, and I think people have a harder time giving League the benefit of doubt because League has, or Riot, the Riot Games has not done a very good job in instilling good faith or maintaining good faith in players with all the things like expensive skins or degrading skin quality, making the game less free-to-play friendly, what have you. And then the game as a whole, especially for Season 15 and kind of like the original perspective I think people have with the game, because there's another comment from Really866 that says, Season 15 is incredibly underwhelming compared to previous seasons. Despite Riot recently having the largest budget, they barely did anything new, and even the quality of skins has declined while the prices have skyrocketed. That's exactly the point. The standard for League is evolving collectively by the players, not just in terms of like, oh, skins should understandably and justifiably be better now than they were before because they have better technology, better graphic software, more, I guess, time to understand and maybe find avenues of artwork and stuff to create better skins. And yet we're going in the opposite direction where skins are increasing in quality or increasing in price, but the quality is either remaining the same due to use of recycled assets and whatnot. If not, they're getting worse. And people are essentially taking that and associating with the rest of the game as a whole. Like, they believe the experience of League should be even better now than it was back in 2015 or 2014, 13. So when people say like, we're blinded by nostalgia, it is true in the sense that maybe we were using, we had rose-tinted glasses, so we were downplaying a lot of the negative aspects of the game. Yet at the same time, when we compare it against the modern state of the game, which theoretically should be much better than the older state of the game, it's like, how do I put this? We're giving the past too much credit, and we're not giving the present enough credit. But you also have to think about the game to a higher standard. You have to put the game to a higher standard because the game is now 15 years old. That much time should have given the development team and the company enough creative latitude to put the game in a position where it's more enjoyable, more sociable. The challenge is still there, if not ever growing, but in a way that allows people to enjoy it and feel accomplished from meeting that challenge. And it just isn't right now. I don't know if I'm making any sense because I've been rambling a lot. You know how it is. This is specifically why I don't do live commentary that much, because scripted commentary I can kind of remember, or I can look at what I'm writing, or look at what I'm saying before I actually say it. But so I get comments here and there from people saying they actually enjoy this ad-lib because it's not as curated, but still, I sometimes feel like I kind of trail off in a random path as I get to the end of the video. Point being, a lot of people are saying that they like the game, especially the people who just joined the game. Like, they're experiencing their Season 1, Season 2, Season 3 the way we did during Season 1, Season 2, Season 3. They're just doing it 10 years later. Which side do we cater to? It's hard to say. You still want to respect the existing player base, especially if you're not getting any new players, and that's the current problem in League right now, where they're slowly bleeding out in players while not replacing the players that leave. And you need to find a good middle ground to where you can maintain both, where you're constantly getting new players while maintaining the ones that you already have. And it's an inevitability for a game 15 years old to lose interest, or for people who've been playing the game for multiple years to lose interest. And I think the different propositions that people have, put up, saying like, let's say, try to just overhaul the game, rework all the old champions first before introducing new ones, or maybe trying to do crazy things like I suggested. They need to do something big. Each of them have their own like good and bad outcomes to them, or there will probably no doubt be casualties. I've had the pleasure of speaking to a couple Riot employees who are on the the development team. Like this is back during when I was at the Riot Summit, and even like just in DMs, just talking to them. They all agree that League, something needs to change. I think that's the sentiment that everyone unanimously feels at the current moment, is that League is not where people want it to be, both from the players and the developers. Like they think that League has turned out it hasn't performed up to expectations. And they're hoping that, I'm sure all of us are hoping that League can still continue on for another 10, 20 more years, but hopefully in a better direction. Thing is, like I mentioned, or like I talked about throughout the beginning of the video, we're constantly fighting an ever-increasing set of expectations and criteria, which is not a bad thing, right? Like it's, again, more experience. You would obviously expect a beginner, or you wouldn't expect much from a beginner, but from a person who's been perfecting their craft and honing it for 30 years, you would expect a higher quality from them because they've been at it for so much longer. And the pace of trying to meet that is difficult for a game like League, because there's so many different demographics, from your casual players who play only ARAM or who don't care about champion balance, to your super sweaty tryhard Diamond 4 2000 game Hearthstuck player who thinks everything is wrong about the world except for them. Like, just there's so many different parties, demographics and audiences and factions of thought that you have to try to find a good middle ground for, and inevitably you're not going to. Like, there's going to be decisions that bother a lot of people, and even if you try to find a decision that appeals to everyone, somehow, some way in the future, they will be dissatisfied with it. Because, funnily enough, in my video talking about like the main problem with League and how it's just not changing enough in the past couple of years, that was brought on by the fact that people were complaining about there being too much change back in season 7, season 8, 9, what have you. Now, there's a balance, mind you, right? There could be too much change, not enough change. You want to find that point in the middle. But that's sort of the main dilemma with League right now. There is no winning solution for where the game should be, because everyone is right about the fact that there is a problem with the game, and that like where it is now is not a good space to be. But every direction that the game can take will lead to the same outcome of the game is not in a spot where it needs to be, because it needs to try to go in every single direction. It's a lose-lose situation. It's a catch-22, which kind of brings everything back together of, is it not the fault of the game and how it was designed, whether by champions, balance, mechanics, Summoner's Rift, all of the systems put together, or is it just a question of player attitude? Are we trying to force an unrealistic solution or an unrealistic situation into a game that just physically and pragmatically cannot do it? That was something I had to reflect on for a bit, because I've always been of the school of thought that, like, the whole point of Vars, and the full name of Vars Verum, for those of you who don't know, like, my channel's full name is Vars Verum, and then Verum, as you know, is Latin for truth, and the Vars is short for variation, and then put together, Vars Verum becomes varying truth. And it's kind of a mantra of mine, or like a creed I follow, where truth is a matter of circumstance. It's not all things to all people all the time. Two things can be fundamentally divergent from each other and still both be true. So kind of how I molded that into my channels is to present different avenues of thought that could also be just as valid, if not even more so, than whatever the prevailing narrative is at the time. So, you know, every once in a while, or not every once in a while, pretty frequently, I get flamed or I get roasted for having a really terrible take. But like the purpose of my channel is like to just bring that take up to begin with, because even if 99% of people disagree with it, as long as 1% agrees, or not agrees with it, but if it inspires thought and, I guess, introspection is not the right word, I guess just people to think about it a bit, that's good enough for me. That in and of itself is a fallacy, because for me, I've also had my own fixed thoughts on the game about how like League is going in a negative direction, which again, a lot of people think that way, not everyone does. But there are people who like the game, begging the question, does it need to actually go in a certain direction? Like, are we approaching things in an incorrect way? Like, is this just what League is supposed to be? Because people have been trying to, whether in, consciously or subconsciously, make League into something else for them. Because League is more than just a game for people, it's a culture. It's, cringe as it may sound, it's a way of life for a lot of people. People grew up playing League. People met a lot of people playing League, It's like, even though it's not a very social game, especially in solo queue, a lot of friends are made from this game. Could it just be the player base has been too stubborn for a long time, and they should just evaluate or accept the fact that League is only able to be this much, when in everyone's mind they want it to be this much, right? Are we trying to expect too much out of the game? And if we want to find something else, we should just go to a different game? Who knows? It would be great if you could just have a one-stop shop for every single experience in the game that you want and just put into League. But I wonder if maybe that's what Riot is also thinking, is that do they see League as a game that should just stay in its lane and then figure out what to do with the rest around it? Or are they trying to make League a game that can be appealing to all different types of demographics and genres? And then whenever I look at these comments like, I like the game, or the game is perfectly fine, or the game is very balanced right now, like there's another comment, let me find. I'm trying to remember, one sec. There was a comment that was going on along the lines of, it is fine for the game to not have to go through so many different overhauls and upheavals, and that people should just stop bitching, because, admittedly, the League community does have a tendency to voice complaints a little too gratuitously and without proper restraint or discipline behind it. It's just, it is also exacerbated by the fact that League does, of course, especially even even outside of the context of solo queue, like even in casual settings, can be a very frustrating and toxic gameplay for a lot of people, because there are a lot of elements that are just out of your control. And that naturally makes it difficult for people to see things for what it is or what it can be. They only see it for what they wished it could be. So I guess, like, to conclude, because we've been going on for a while and I've been rambling aimlessly for almost 25 minutes. Is League a good game? I think everyone can agree in some capacity that League is a great game. The experience is the problem. So when people say they like the game, I agree. The game's a great game, it's fun to play. Is it fun to experience though? Not really. Maybe we should stop thinking about the game being the issue. Like, balance is not the issue, champions are not the issue, like those aren't the problem. And maybe instead Riot should talk or focus more on like the community side of things, because maybe if season 15 came out the way it is and not much changed, but then they've put more infrastructural reformations to make the game more enjoyable to experience, for you to want to come back and look forward to, then we wouldn't need the game to be as different. That probably could be a coping mechanism. The reason why we want such radical change for the game right now is because we feel like, as it is now, people are not having fun. A lot of people are not having fun. But instead of blaming the game, they should focus on all other things. So, just something that I was like thinking about as I was reading through the hot takes episode, or the hot takes post. This is not really a hot takes actually, this is more of this is different from my other episodes where I directly react to certain comments or respond to them. It's more just my overall thoughts, because there were a lot of comments in the post talking about how the game's actually doing good right now. So, yeah. Alright, anyways, apologies for the lack of structure in this video. I actually, by the time you see this, or not by the time you see this, but 2 days after I record this episode, I have to actually go to Canada for a bit, so that's why I'm kind of in a hurry. I hope you're okay with that though, but if you enjoyed, just let me know your thoughts in the comments down below, what you think about this, and in the meantime, I'd appreciate it if you could leave a like and subscribe. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter at Vars, join my Discord server, pointing to where I expect it to be on the screen, and check out my other discussion videos if you haven't yet. But until next time, thanks so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you again soon. Take care.